In this video, we'll be going over Signing Naturally 11.13. You have made it. Yes. 11.13 Culture, focus on Chuck Baird, a deaf artist. So in this section, we're learning about DeVia. Okay, so it's DE apostrophe VIA. So this stands for deaf view or image art. And it's artwork that uses deaf symbols. Okay, so this is important to remember. So there's also deaf artists who actually are deaf. They have a hearing loss, and they also do different kinds of artwork. And so they are deaf artists, but they are not considered DeVia. Okay, for example, Field of Poppies by Granville, Redmond. He was a deaf impressionist painter who worked in the early 1990s, and his work features the California landscape, the rolling hills of Poppies. So even though he was deaf himself, his work doesn't have anything to do with the deaf experience. So whenever you look at the picture Field of Poppies, you pretty much just see kind of like a countryside. There's nothing about deafness, nothing about his experience. Nothing that's symbolic in the work. He's just an artist who happens to be deaf. So it is not considered DeVia. Okay, then we do have the main artist we're focusing on, DeVia artist Chuck Baird, who lived from 1947 to 2012. So he was a deaf visual artist. His work spans from the 1970s to 2000s, and he's known for his work because it reflects signing as well as the deaf experience. He is also the founder of DeVia, and he attended the Kansas School for the Deaf, and he also attended Gallaudet University and the National Technical Institute for the Deaf before he received his BFA in painting from Rochester Institute of Technology in 1974. So Chuck Baird, some of his works include Double Arches by Chuck Baird, as I said. So in this one, then you see a couple different things, but this one has a lot of symbolism, a lot of color. So one of the things that you'll notice as you look at the picture is that in the front you see hands like this, and they almost kind of have that heart shape to them. So this is hands that are cupped to form the shape of the heart, representing the deaf community's solidarity. Okay, so out of the hands, then you have this one. Okay, so it looks like smoke, but this is the sign for spirit or like your soul. Some people use it that way. So its movement is similar to the sign. Okay, so it represents an actual sign. Then towards the middle where you have like these mountain arches coming together, then it has the like the shape of an eye, and it's the main way that most people who are deaf absorb the world is through the eye. So there's that symbolism. And then the arch that makes the shape of the eye, it actually is two hands coming together this way for the sign equal. So it's the fact that deaf people are equal to hearing people, and deaf equals nature. It's something that's natural. Being deaf is a natural thing. So whenever you're studying about DeVia, deaf view / image art, the main points of their manifesto, which was created in 1989, include that it's visual fine arts intended to express cultural or physical deaf experience. Okay, so there's two views related to deafness. There's the positive as well as the negative. So positive acknowledges that sign languages are natural languages, recognizing that being deaf is fine and is natural, experiencing commonality, unity, and community, and viewing deaf people as visual beings. Then on the negative side, we see experiencing language deprivation, for example, being denied using ASL, experiencing denial of cultural identity, for example, separation from deaf peers or adults, seeing deaf people as broken and needing to be fixed, believing it's more important to hear and speak than to be happy and being content as a deaf person, and having an obsession with the ears and the mouth. Okay? Also, the centralized focus on facial features or on the hands. The artwork usually focuses on the mouth and ears, which is more negative. When it focuses on the hands and the eyes, it's usually more positive. A lot of the artwork incorporates contrasting colors, very intense colors or values of color. So if you see the gray or the dark colors, this usually refers to the oppression, the denial of language and cultural identity. versus the bright, bold colors, which are the visual appeal and the inspiration that happens when there's sign language. Being deaf, big D deaf, culturally deaf, and their culture being respected and celebrated. If you look at art number 2, so it's NO period 2, which is from 1993. This one is a picture of a man from about his chin down to his waist, and he is signing the sign art. And so he has his hand out this way and he has the sign art, and it has like a white glow. He is more like a glowing, like he has light bouncing off of his white shirt, which is covered like in little bits of paint. And then he also has different art supplies like a pen and a brush and colored pencil and all of these things kind of like just floating in front of him. So with this, then we see the visual arts that's intending to express the cultural or the physical deaf experience. So for this one specifically, it uses the sign art. Okay, so that one's incorporated into the painting. The glow at the chest implies that there's a passion for the deaf heart and soul in his art. The centralized focus on the features of the hands as well as the face is included here. We see that the hands are the central focus of the painting's composition, and this shows Baird's bound with ASL. Okay, then we have the incorporation of contrasting or intense colors and values. So the illumination in the neon colors offsetting the dark background symbolizes the brightness that comes from sharing one's art, language, and cultural identity despite the misconceptions and denials. In this one, it is the Ghanaian, okay, so Ghana, the Ghanaian word for giraffe, and I'll spell it for you, Njamala. Okay, so this is the Ghanaian word for giraffe, the African word. So 1992. So as we said, it is intended to express cultural or physical deaf experience. So in this one, you see kind of like the you see like the sky, you see some of the trees in the background, and then you see like some of like the brush or maybe like a brown grass looking. And then you see a very tall giraffe that is facing forward, and in front of the giraffe, you see a man who is about half as tall as him, and he is signing the sign giraffe, okay? So in this one, the deaf man is superimposed onto the giraffe, signing the sign giraffe. And the man is wearing a robe that's only worn by a king in Ghana, which is elevating deaf people to, as well as ASL, to a level of royalty. And then deaf people are highly visual and tactile, which is also true of giraffes. And so this is the main symbol that is being used in this painting. So with the focus on the facial features or the hands, obviously in this one, he's signing giraffe, so it focuses on his hands and his head as he's signing. And then the colors that are represented are very bright and vibrant in this painting. Okay, the next one is called All American Breakfast, and pretty much shows the pop art style that you see pretty much from that time. And it shows a table, like the red and white classic tablecloth, with a set of silverware, with a cup, with coffee, with cream, with a little vase of flowers, with some butter on the table. And then in front of you, which is the view that you have, like if you took an Instagram picture of your dinner, then this one is pancakes on the plate, and the log cabin syrup logo and the color of the syrup is the color of the person's hand signing the sign, like to pour, or like the sign syrup. And so for this one, then it is expressing the cultural or physical deaf experience again. So it's deaf people making life richer or sweeter for America, symbolized by adding the syrup to the pancakes. It should be considered as commonplace as having pancakes for breakfast. The pop art style reflects the movement's tendency to use commonplace objects as subject matter. And then the focus on facial features are on the hands. This one, as I said, is the sign pour. Okay, so he has like the little logo on the back of his hand, and his whole hand is brown and looks like it even has some bubbles where the syrup hasn't filled up the top of it. And then, so this one, the syrup is being poured on the pancakes. And then again, the pop art style has very bright and cheerful colors. Okay, the next one that we have is late deafened Beethoven's version. So you see a black background with the white lines for like a music staff, almost like how you would have music, but instead of any notes or anything like that, then you have like these blotches of color just across these three like lines of music. So as I said, the cultural or physical experience. So in this one, it's the movement and the colors rather than sounds and instruments. It's deaf people's music. And so this one is more like clouds moving across the sky instead of musical notes. The facial features or the hands, this one's not specifically including the hands or the face, but the subject is more alluding to the contrasted hearing and seeing. So you see that in this one as well. And then it's also incorporating the contrasting colors with the black background, and then you have the bold, bright colors on top of it. Okay, and this next one, it's called Left and Right from 2000. And this one is two hands like this. The one on this side is bright colored. You see the sky. So on all of it, you see the sky, and then you see I believe this one's a sun on both sides. And then in the middle of the hands like this, you see like an actual human brain picture. And then in front of the brain has a chair, and it has calla lilies on it that are crossed like this. And then the background is more black or dark off like behind it. So for this one, the hands, the right hand on here epitomizes the warmth and bright world of deaf people. The gray hand on the left represents the bleak and cold effects of oralism, being forced just to use their voices, read lips, and all of that without being able to sign, which perpetuates many hearing parents' grief over their deaf children. Oralism is the ideology that undermines deaf children's access to sign language and a healthy deaf cultural identity. The brain that's shown in the middle, the left hemisphere of the brain is more linear and logical and sequential, while the right hemisphere is more creative, holistic, intuitive, and visual. Research shows that when a person signs, he utilizes both hemispheres of the brain, whereas when a person speaks, you only use the left hemisphere only. The calla lilies have the stems, as I said, that are crossed this way. So this is the sign like to cross, or like you could go like across this way, or the sign for conflict. Okay, so this symbolizes the cross-cultural experiences navigating both the hearing and the deaf worlds, and back and forth between, and then the conflict that's created by oralism that he experienced growing up. The chair represents a witness stand from which Chuck attests to his experience, one that is shared by many deaf people. The two suns, the red sun on the left implies impurities in the air, signifying an unhealthy life, and the yellow sun on the right implies all is healthy and good in the world. The focus being on the hands and the face again. The hands are used to represent the shape of the brain, abstractly the world even. And the hands also reflect how central ASL is to Chuck's life and his creativity. The colors, again, incorporate the essential symbols. The gray equals the desolation versus the rainbow colors, the bright colors, the light and energy he feels. So that's all that you need to know for Divya. Check out these different paintings and the different artwork that I've talked about and see for yourself and compare. Bye.